this is the new, I guess, normal. And I miss seeing everyone. Let me tell you, it's been almost 3 months since I've been to an in-person FAASTeam event, and that's kind of depressing. When I was going through and I was building this PowerPoint, you know, the next slide, this is what came up, and you know, this is how we used to do it. This is how it used to look, and it kind of bummed me out a little bit, to be honest with you. I can still go through the slide with everyone if they want, but I think you know where your exits are in your house, and I'm pretty sure you know where the restroom is. So, but yeah, this is the new way we're doing it. But I gotta tell you, I miss everyone, and I am really looking forward to seeing everybody in person. Pilots are social creatures by nature, and this is not normal for us. Things are starting to open up a little bit in Connecticut, and I'm excited about it. So let me just introduce the team. So when we say the New England FAASTeam, that's something we kind of made up, but basically, you know, we work together, FSDO to FSDO and FAASTeam program. We like to reach out and work together. The New England states are, you know, pretty close together, so it works out pretty good. So on the left, we've got the John Wood. He's the FAASTeam program in Portland, Maine. He's smiling because he's out flying. John, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi everybody. Good to have you with us tonight.
And thanks, John. The guy with the big smile, that's Stephen K. Brown. Stephen?
Hi, everyone. Good to have you on tonight. Looking forward to this.
Yeah. And then the guy with the glasses, well, I guess we both got glasses. The guy on the left, that's me. We're at the New England Air Museum. And on the right-hand side, that's Rob Leonard. He's our newest member of the team. And you want to say hi, Rob?
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's good to be with you all tonight from way down south in the southern part of New England in Niantic, Connecticut, right on the shoreline, right on the southern shoreline. Yeah, nice to be with you all.
Nice. Thanks, Rob. And our special guest speaker tonight, maybe you guys have heard of him. You folks have heard of him. His name is Dave Strassburg. Dave, you want to say hello?
There's my unmute. You think I'd have the hang of this by now, unmuting. But hi, everybody. It's Dave Strassburg. Thank you from Northampton, Massachusetts. I got a big smile on my face because I got to go flying today. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And I hope you look forward to the presentation.
Yeah. Dave is probably one of the most active glider instructors that we have in our district, I'm guessing. Let's see. Tailwheel pilot, aerobatic pilot. He's also a professional pilot when he's not teaching at Northampton. So just recently got his Learjet type rating. He also just recently renewed his CFI using the Wings program. And he's going to show us how to do that later tonight. You know, we always talk about the Wings program and doing it, but Dave will actually show you, here's how you do it. And once he shows, like he showed me, it wasn't as hard as I thought. So I'm looking forward to that later. So here's what we're going to go through tonight. We're going to break it up into 3 parts. So we're going to just briefly go through, you know, what's new, some of the new stuff that's out there, what's going on. Then we'll talk about professionalism. The topic tonight is standards, and we'll just go over, you know, a little bit what the standards are with the ACS and so forth. And then we're going to have Dave's presentation where he shows us how he renewed his flight instructor through Wings. I think you're going to find it interesting how he did it. He didn't use a FERC. He went through the Wings program. Yeah, I think you're going to like it. Okay, we'll go to the next one here. Oh, and then of course at the end we're going to have question and answers because I know a lot of people like to hang around for the end for the questions and answers. So what's new? Here's a couple things that are new. So you may have gotten an email from FAASAFETY.GOV about a survey, or you might have seen, this is a screenshot I took from an ALPA article. They had a link to the survey. So I don't know if everyone has heard, but they are redoing the FAASAFETY.GOV website. So the Wings program is going to be the same, but the website, well, actually they're looking at everything, but really the website is what they're really going to be working on. I heard they got a lot of comments, a lot of feedback, and this is a little bit of my personal opinion. People like the wings program, but I hear a lot out in the field, you know, the website is so complicated, and how do I get to, you know, how do I get to what I want? And I got to do 3 clicks. It's not. I hear a lot of feedback that it's not really user friendly. And this is kind of the FAA saying, you know what, we get it. We get it. We need to fix it. And I personally, for one, am very excited that they are doing this. They're taking all the comments. And the other thing is, it's not just the FAA that's like, oh, we need to do this. They're working with industry. As you can see in this article, you know, they're working with AOPA or Safety Institute. That's just one of several different entities they're working with. So I'm excited about it personally. Another thing that's new is Wings Pros. You may or may not have heard of Wings Pros. So basically, these folks here in this picture, they're probably going to kill me because I didn't know I was going to do this picture, but they are Wings. Well, the lady on the left is no longer a Wings Pro because she came to work for the FAA, Melanie Fulchik Barrelero. In the center is Alex Ingleson, and on the right is our speaker tonight, Dave Strassburg. They are Wings Pros, and they, you know, what is a Wings Pro? A Wings Pro is someone who has gone through extensive training. It's like 5 different sessions that they have to go through. They learn how to work the website, and they volunteer their time to folks in the aviation community. If they want to go through the Wings program and they're having problems with the website, or they have a question, they can't get it to work the way they want, you can go to a Wings Pro and they will help you with it. It's pretty awesome. It's something we really appreciate them doing. I went through the training myself. It's not easy. It's quite a commitment, but it's pretty awesome. By the way, the gentleman in the center there, his name is Alex Ingleson. I'm not sure if he's on tonight or not. He's the lead helicopter instructor for the Air National Guard in Massachusetts at Barnes. And thanks to him, I got to go for a Black Hawk helicopter ride. So if he's out there, I just want to say thank you publicly, Alex. It was their aviation day, and it was the best day I've ever had in the FAA. So Jason Archer on the left, he's a Wings Pro. These are, and by the way, if you're not in our district, that's okay. These folks will still be happy to help you. Jason Archer on the left teaches up at Great Barrington in Massachusetts. He's a Wings Pro. On the right, we've got Wings Pro and DPE, Daryl Smith, and he's with us tonight. These folks can help you with your Wings questions. Please don't beat your head against the wall trying to figure out the website. If you get stuck, we don't want you to get stuck. We don't want you to get frustrated and then give up on it. Just let someone who's been trained and they know how to work it, just get what you need. That's really the best advice I could give. And then we also have Wings Pro. Let's see, we've got Russ. I'm probably gonna mispronounce this. John, do you know how to pronounce his last name? Kelsey?
Yeah, you got it, Kelsey. That's good,
okay.
Dan.
Wow, all right.
Yeah, you're batting 1,000.
Okay, all right. I'm feeling a little better. Awesome. And then we have the 2 Russes, and then we have Russ Keith. And you know, I'm sorry I didn't have a picture of them. If you guys are on tonight, thank you for being Wings Pros, and I'm sorry I didn't have a picture up, but I did want to put your contact information up there. If anybody in that area would like to, you know, go to these folks. The way you can find them is just go to the website, go to the directory, and in the keywords type in Wings and click your district or state or whatever area you want to search, and then the Wings Pros in that area will come up. And for Boston, we share Dave Strassburg. Dave is very active in the Wings program, so he's really probably one of our main advocates for Wings. So he covers the Boston area as well, and you'll find him on there too. Okay, let's talk a little bit about something else that's new, what's new and upcoming in airman testing. So on the handout I mentioned earlier, it came out, I want to say just maybe a week ago. I think it was late May it came out. It has all the latest and greatest as far as, you know, what's going on with the written test, you know, what's changing on the written test. what's changing on the ACS, what are they revising on the handbooks. It has a whole summary of all those things, and it has hyperlinks directly embedded into the document, so you can go directly to the pages. But I did want to hit the highlight. Just remember, I'm sure pretty much everyone's already heard it now, but when you send your students to take their written test, they'll need to already go through IACRA. So they'll need to go into IACRA, they'll need to get their FTN number first before they go to take their test at the testing center. Stephen, did you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, actually for the pilot types, it's probably not that big of an issue because they would have gotten a student pilot certificate normally or something like that. The ones that it may be a surprise to are those on the pilot side that are doing things like the military competency, and they may need to go take a knowledge test for the first time with the FAA to get their MilComp commercial pilot certificate. Where it's really a surprise to people is on the maintenance side, because, you know, for brand new developing A&Ps for their testing, they have not used IACRA before. So they have to go onto this new system and register for it. There are also some things like parachute riggers that it could be a surprise to them. That's where it really is a challenge for people because it's a whole new system to them. They've never seen it before and all of that. You know, a student pilot will have at least seen it and it'll be, oh yeah, I've been here before. But, you know, there's a few types of people, you say it to them and they go, what? What are you talking about? And that's where we help as instructors, even if, you know, even if it's not a piloted instructor, you can really help those type of students in all of aviation by helping direct them towards it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Stephen. Okay, so I just did this just as an example of why you might want to, you know, kind of keep track of what's going on. Here's a true or false. It's not going to be a poll question, but you can just kind of ask yourself this. So true or false, questions about ADS-B out were added to the private pilot airplane airman knowledge test bank. True or false? So just kind of think that over to yourself and we'll see what the answer is. And the answer is true. So it recently changed March 30th. They've now added ADS-B out questions to the private pilot, actually the commercial pilot as well, and even the ATP have questions on there. So that's something you know, kind of think about when you're sending students off for the written test. Have them check, see what they're working with, and make sure they've got the latest and greatest. Ensuring safety of flight tonight is really about standards and how to train to the standard. So safety assurance, to assure that we have the safety, we have to, you know, have the correct standards. And the standards that we use as instructors, it's really two essential. Kind of ask yourself, what would be those two essential standards that you would use as your student for your students, so they know what to expect, so everybody's on the same plan. And hopefully you mentioned the airman certification standards. That's the destination of where, you know, you and your student are going. And then the syllabus. And the syllabus, that could be your syllabus, that could be a commercially bought syllabus, it could be something you modify. It's just a plan that gets you to the destination of meeting the standard of the ACS.
Dan, this is Steve.
Yes,
I'll jump in to mention one thing. You know, the FAA is working on ACS, and they're going to be working on developing some more of them. There is an ACS for the small UAS, UAV operations. That just recently got updated. But if you go to FAA.gov, and over on the far right-hand side of the website is the training and testing tab. Under there, with changes to the knowledge test and everything, you can find what other ACSs they're working on. And like right now, they are actually working primarily on the maintenance ones because that's the next largest group of certificated airmen, if I can use that word, beyond pilots and now UAS pilots too. And then they're also working on some others like rotorcraft, helicopter, and all of that. So you can take a look and see what the FAA and the industry groups are working on to give you a heads up of what might be coming down the pike that changes from practical test standards to the airman certification standards.
Yeah, that's a great point. The other thing is, the PTS, we're all familiar with the PTS that we've been instructing for a little bit. That didn't change very often. I remember when I was instructing, I had one, I think it came from ASA or Sporties or something, and I kept it in my bag as a paper one, and it didn't change for years. But keep in mind the ACS, it's changing quite a bit more. So, if you have something in your bag or something, take a look, go online and see, because it might have changed. I know Daryl Smith, one of our DPEs, we were talking just earlier today, and he was telling me, like on Checkrides, people will say, so what do you want to see? And they might mention a specific thing, like maybe slow flight or so, whatever. And Daryl, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but he had a great answer. It's like, well, it's not what I want to see. Let's look at the ACS. Let's break it open. Let's look at it and see what it says, and because it could be changed. So that's one thing I'd like to add on that.
Yeah, that's one thing. This is Daryl, Dan.
Yeah.
A lot of flight instructors ask me, how do you like to see stalls, or how do you like to see steep turns? And you hit it on the head. It's not how I want to see it. It's what's in the standard. And that's always a great opportunity to work with both the instructor and the applicant to get them into the ACS and show them, what the evaluation standard is going to be. And I also let them know it's an open book test. This is everything I'm going to be evaluating you on. I can't add anything to it, but I can't leave anything out either.
Yeah, that's a great point. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, and actually it's that time of year right now for the ACS to be updated. As we talked about this, I checked just before we went online, it has not. But last year, or they're planned to be updated at least every June, more often if needed. But the plan is for the ACS to be updated at least once a year, and that is in the month of June. Last year, it occurred on June 6th. We are on June 5th this year. So truly, I would expect almost at any day to see a good possible update on the ACSs.
Okay, awesome. We'll be looking for that. Just remember, in the PTS, they used to have like lengthy notes about certain things. That's been moved. A lot of that has been moved into the appropriate indexes for the ACS. So just kind of keep that in mind. And well, Daryl kind of already talked about this, so I don't really need to cover this, how the evaluator uses the ACS. So, that's what the evaluator is the umpire, right? So that's their playbook of how they score everything. So everybody should be on the same page, Just remember the evaluator is going to put the ACS plan of action in just like a flight instructor would do a lesson plan. The evaluator is going to have a plan, and they're going to build their test via the ACS. And one thing I thought was interesting is the ACS should not make either the oral portion of the flight portion or practical test any longer than the PTS. Daryl, have you found that to be true?
Yeah, I think so. I think when a lot of flight instructors said when the ACS first came out, it's going to take longer to do the exam. I got to say, I was one of those people that thought the same thing. But as I educated myself on the ACS and how to use it as a flight instructor, it actually became a lot more easier to use the ACS and to know exactly a little more granular about what's going to happen.
Awesome. Okay, good. Yeah, see, I don't know. I mean, you're out there, you're in the field doing it. So I haven't got to really work with the ACS because I came to work at the FAA, but I appreciate that input, Daryl. Stephen probably has, because Stephen actually does Checkride still. So Stephen, you probably have more experience with it.
Actually, it is interesting. Not much. The one that I probably have the most experience with is the airline transport pilot one when that came out. But that came out even later after the private pilot and commercial in the instrument. Those came out before. we do have some others that'll be coming out soon. The CFI has been a challenging one. I know both people within the FAA and outside of the FAA, and there's some things that are going to change, be a little bit different about that. We have some new material also coming out in relation to it. They originally planned it for last September, but it just finally happened about a month ago. There is a new aviation instructor's handbook out there. I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, Dan. I don't think you had this on the slides.
Perfect.
But there is a new aviation instructor's handbook out right now. It just came out, and the plan is for there to be a significant change in the fundamentals of instruction test starting in September, if I recall.
Awesome. No, that's great. I believe, don't quote me on this, I think it's on the handout. It mentions that. So that's great. Thank you, Stephen. So we're going to wrap this up, and then we're going to hand it over to Dave. Performance standards, just kind of ask yourself, what standard documents do you and your students share? And then after you answer that question, at what point do you bring that in? It's not really a hard and fast rule of when you bring that in, but I would say sooner rather than later. The sooner everyone kind of knows what the game plan is, and the students understand the ACS, and the student and instructor are working together. But that's that's a little bit of a personal call of exactly when you bring it in. But I would suggest and probably encourage sooner rather than later. And then managing your student performance expectations. So like Daryl said, it's not really what I want. It's what the standard is. I think we covered that pretty good, actually. So we're going to talk about the path to proficiency. We're going to hand it over to Dave. Before we do, I love doing these things in person. And I had an award I was going to give out, and I want to do it in person. We were going to do it at the next CFI forum, but I can't do that. All I have is Zoom here. But I want to say congratulations to Dave Strassburg. Dave is our Rep of the Year for the Bradley FAASTeam. All I had to do was twist his arm to get him to put in. I just want to say congratulations, Dave. I'm sorry I can't give it to you in person. Congratulations, Rep of the Year. And I also want to encourage anyone else, if you know someone that you'd like to put in for Rep of the Year, or maybe CFI of the Year, or Maintenance Tech of the Year, please let us know, either me, John, or Stephen. We're always looking for folks that we can recognize that are, volunteering their time, helping in the community. And a lot of people, to be honest with you, are a little shy and they don't want to do it, kind of like Dave. He's probably not too happy with me right now. But it's great to recognize folks for doing this, and they volunteer their time. So I just want to encourage, if you would like to put in, or if you'd like to put someone in that you think would be deserving, please let us know. And I'm going to hand it over to Dave Strassburg.
So anyway, as we move forward here, again, as I mentioned before, it was 7 years ago today that I got my initial CFI. And as I was getting Checkride ready and preparing myself for this Checkride, it was back in the days when they were initially done by the FAA. Good news is they were free, but the bad news is it was quite intimidating as I taxied up to this large hangar at Bradley Airport. I was definitely sweating that day. I don't know if they could see it, but I was. And as you should be, when you're training or you're taking your practical test for your CFI, that's a big day. That's a lot of responsibility that you're taking on. You really want to make sure that applicant is adequately qualified. So long story short, good news is I passed, and I can go out and provide flight instruction. And I've learned a lot from flight instruction. As I said, if you can teach something, that's when you really know it. And over those next 2 years, I worked really hard, as I continue to do, to be the best CFI that I possibly can for my students. So 2 years later, I had some time and experience under my belt, and it was time for my renewal. It was a test question that I knew, but it really wasn't applicable to me until that point. So as I investigated my options for renewal, I took a look at 61-197, and one of the options was to complete a practical test for one of the ratings held on the certificate. Now, I didn't really feel like going back and recreating that experience again with the FAA, and doing it with the DPE would have been rather costly for me to do. So I wanted to take a look at some other options. One of the options was to add a flight instructor rating. Seemed like a good idea, a great way to increase my skills and learn some more. So interesting option. So that's what I did. I added my CFII, followed that with my MEI. and then continued on with my CFI-G. When that was completed, I investigated perhaps trying to go rotorcraft, but that seemed prohibitively expensive. So the next option was to provide a record of training students showing that within the previous 24 calendar months, you'd endorsed 5 students for practical tests with at least an 80% pass rate on the first attempt. I was active at that time, so that would have been perhaps a good option. But at a time like now, I'm not quite as active in signing applicants off. I wanted to know what other options there were. So obviously, a lot of CFIs renew by presenting a graduation certificate for a FERT, as long as they've completed it within the previous 3 months. And that could be a ground course or a flight training or a combination of both. But I had heard that there was a way that you could do it through wings. And my experience with wings, as with a lot of pilots, was going to seminars. I'd been to many seminars at various airports, but how was that going to allow a CFI to renew their flight instructor certificate? So I did a little bit of research, and I found this advisory circular, AC 6191J, which gives all the information about the wings program. And I thought there's probably a pretty good idea how to do that here, because the information was not in the regs. And there it is right there. So for instructors are eligible to renew their flight instructor certificate through participation with wings. The holder of a current flight instructor certificate who serves as a flight instructor in the FAA Wings program may renew their certificate with the following criteria. And the criteria is listed below. So the CFI must hold an unexpired flight instructor certificate. They have to personally hold a current phase of wings at any level at the time of application. They have to have evaluated 15 wings accredited flight activities at any level, and make appropriate endorsements in the pilot's logbook. They have to present a record to a safety inspector and complete an 8710. So there was obviously something I could do here with this, but there were some terms that I didn't really necessarily understand what they meant, right? And this is the problem a lot of times with wings. There's terms. What does it mean by a current phase? What does it mean by a level? What does it mean by a flight activity? So I dug into it a little bit, and what I recognized, and by watching many of Stephen's programs, is that wings really has 2 components. It's a combination of various types of knowledge activities and flight activities. Just like training for any of the certificates or ratings that I had received, it was a combination of both. And I knew that the knowledge activities were there because I had already participated in a lot of those, but I needed to find out what these flight activities were that had to be done. So slide down on the AC circular, and it explains exactly what that is. It's a flying task, right? Completed with a qualified instructor, and that instructor verifies that the airman accomplishes the tasks to the appropriate standards. And those standards are either the ACS or the PTS, depending on what you do. So some of the things that can be a wings flight activity are the training that's completed for initial private pilot certificate. So when I sign somebody off for a practical test and they complete it successfully, I would get credit for that as a CFI, and the student would get credit for that as a wings flight activity. Same goes for initial instrument rating or commercial or flight instructor, sport or ATP, or adding additional category and class. Well, that's great, but when I looked at the information from 61-197, why would I want to do 15 of these things when I could already just complete 5 of these items right here and renew my certificate that way? So that really wasn't going to necessarily save me any time. Well, as I investigated and looked a little bit further, what I saw was it's not just ratings or certificates, but it can also be endorsements, like a complex endorsement or high performance or a tailwheel, or even something like an instrument proficiency check. Now, these things are things that you're going to complete in a matter of days as opposed to months or years with a student. So these were things that I was doing more often with my students. So that's great. That's something that I can accumulate that 15 much easier than if it was just a Checkride. Well, a wing flight activity can also just be a section of tasks from the ACS. So this right here is a wings activity Alpha 100-12509, which is navigation from area of operation 7. And so what I would do in order to be able to validate this flight activity or task for a student and get credit for it towards one of the 15 as my CFI renewal is just do these items and evaluate a pilot. These were things that I was doing every day in my flight instruction. And as I looked a little bit further, here's one for emergency operations. So this is another activity. If you complete these maneuvers and evaluate a pilot for these maneuvers, you can get credit for that for a flight activity. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a full-blown certificate or rating that you're doing. So the Wings website is a little bit complicated to look through. And so one of the reasons is because all of these activities that are in there are presented to you and they look a little bit different on every page. So what I did to make it easier for myself is I went in and I pulled out a lot of the most common flight activities for different categories and classes of aircraft that I might do with my students. So this is a little cheat sheet that I have. And when we're done with this webinar, if you want to get a copy of this, my email address is right on the bottom. You can send me an email and I'll be happy to send it over to you. So I can take this with me in the cockpit and I can work on these items with a student. And when I validate them for that activity, I can claim that towards credit for my renewal. There are some scenarios that you can do in a Redbird simulator like we have at the airport that I train at Northampton. And that's really interesting because this is the first time that you've really been able to give Wings credit outside of being in an actual aircraft. So these are highly developed scenarios that are looked at by the FAA and evaluated and provide some really great training scenarios for students. And so this is the one for airplane single engine land. And I have one also for multi-engine. If you want to work with a multi-engine pilot, you can do these items as well. Each one of these individual activities will count towards a renewal. And this is this is the phase, basic wing phase recommended activities for glider. Now these are your kind of your gateway entry level things that you would do with anybody that you fly with. And as you dig into the Wings program, you have the ability to work on some more advanced topics, some cost-based topics with more flexibility where you can get together with private providers and do things like that. But this you can bring right along with you and just go through and check off these boxes. And again, these are things that you normally work on. So the other thing that I did and what I'm really working on now is kind of taking these tasks and breaking them up. And instead of categorizing them by tasks, I'm putting these individual things in the order of what you would do on a flight with a student. So the first one I've done is for the glider. So this is what I call Pocket Wings Glider Spring Checkout. And all these individual tasks that you see right here are broken up and listed by the phase of flight. So you have a pre-flight, which would include assembly, ground handling before takeoff check, and normal and crosswind takeoff. And then you move to the flight phase and talk about the things that a glider pilot would do in the flight phase. These are the types of things you would do in the air that you would work on, and then some air work as well. So this is all being updated right now. So please don't use this copy right here, but I'll send you my most updated one. So when you get together with a student and you've completed these activities, there's some paperwork involved in order for you to get credit for that. And this is the thing that trips a lot of instructors up, but it's really super easy to do. All you have to do is go to the Wings website, which is FAASAFETY.GOV, and this little widget right here is what you're going to use. So you can see there where it says, click here to give immediate Wings credit. When you click on that little hyperlink there, it's going to take you to this page here. Now if you're a flight instructor, you don't have to have a Wings account in order to do this. You can just log in from a random anonymous computer and put the information in, but it's going to ask you for a little bit more information because it really doesn't know who you are. So if I want to do this, what I'm going to do is go ahead and click that, and it's going to ask me to put in my flight instructor certificate and my last name. And then it's going to go into the database and it's going to have some information on me. It looks into the FAA computers for that, but it's going to ask me for my phone number. And what this is because this is kind of done anonymously, they really want to make sure that nobody is getting in there and fraudulently doing anything. And they will call this number from time to time just to verify that you did put that information in. So then I'm going to enter in the email address here for the airman, whoever it is, whatever the email address is for the airman that I'm working with. And in Wings, your email address is kind of like your student ID. All right, so once you add in that email address for the student, what's going to happen is if they have a Wings account, it's going to show their name. And that's how you know that they already have a Wings account. If you enter in their email address, so this is my dog Calvin here, he doesn't participate in wings. If you put that information in and they don't have an account, you're not going to get anything here. At which point you're just going to enter in the first name and the last name and then go to the next step. Okay, and the next step is this screen right here. So there's your activity number. You type in the activity number, and what you're going to see is a little drop-down list. And I'll show you after I get done. I'm actually going to go ahead and do one live, but here is the information for this. Now, when you put that in, you see this little OR option here. If you have the activity number, that's the easiest way to do it because you just punch in the number and you're done. This on the bottom is if you don't know the number, you can go in and search and sort of wade your way through and find it. Don't try to do that. It will take you forever, and there's a lot of stuff in there. So it's best to go in prepared and have that number and enter it in. Okay, once you do that, it's going to bring up a little screen like this, and it's going to give you some information. Okay, it's founded in the database. Here's a credit for basic flight topic 3 for airplane single engine land navigation procedures. Going to click that little select button there. Okay, it's going to bring up this information. You've got to put in the date that you completed it, and then you've got to do a couple certifications. One is the fact that you actually did the training for this pilot for this activity. Now, let's say my friend is a flight instructor, and a student is really motivated. The student works with wings, and they understand kind of how this works, and they do some work with that flight instructor, but the flight instructor doesn't want to bother going in and doing the validation. You can do the validation for another flight instructor. You just click no. Or if you pass this information along to one of your FAASTeam reps or your program managers, they can do that as well. But they're going to click no in this. If you're the flight instructor and you did the training, you're going to click yes. And that's what gives you the ability to claim it towards your renewal of your CFI. Click this little button here, and it just says you certified that they met the standards as according, and you noted that in their training records, and you click give credit, and then you're done. So it took a couple minutes to explain that, but actually to do it for real, if you have an account and you're logged in, you can do it in about 30 seconds and you're done. And that's one of the 15 that you need. Now, if you look at the benefits of doing wings versus a FERC, if you look at wings is free. A FERC has a minimal cost, right? They're not really that expensive. They're $100 for some of them, and some of them actually provide you the ability to renew on a lifetime basis. So that's nice, but it's not really necessarily a main reason why I would do this. With wings, you have an opportunity to exercise your CFI skills, and maybe in a category or class of aircraft that you don't particularly always teach in. So if I haven't been doing some multi-engine training in a while, I might go up and start working with some students and refamiliarize myself with some of those tasks and those standards. Most of your FERCs are going to be knowledge only. There are a few that you can do that offer flight credit, but again, those are kind of the minority. Another huge benefit, and this is really one of the big ones, is you're having a positive impact on the safety of at least 5 other pilots. A FERC is an individual task. Yes, you're going to refresh your knowledge, but what I find with students as I start getting them involved in working with wings, I actually see them more often and I see them more regularly. And as I help them kind of work with the program a little bit, it really kind of cascades down to the other pilots in my community. The other benefit to wings is it can be done anytime within the 24 months between renewals. A FERC has to be done within 3 months of renewal. And I actually knew a flight instructor that had he was flying for a large fractional ownership company, and he got right down to the wire. He was on the road, and there was some website problem on that last day, and he wasn't able to get his FERC completed. So then he had to go back and take a Checkride to get his flight instructor certificate back. So again, might put you under the gun in those last 3 months to have to get that done. If you're a CFI that's trying to build time, you can log PIC time for all that time that you're up training and working on these activities, as opposed to a FERC not getting any flight time. There's an opportunity for personal flight proficiency, because in order to renew, not only do you have to work with, do 15 activities for pilots, but you actually have to personally complete one as well. And I find that's a real benefit to actually get together with another flight instructor and get up in the air and have myself evaluated on these maneuvers. That's something that, as I jumped into the right seat or the back seat, depending on the aircraft that you fly, how often are you really having somebody independently look at your own flying and offer you some suggestions and some guidance? So I've really gotten a lot of benefit from that. In the FERC, again, there's no flight component. And probably the best selling point of all is you can do a FERC and that'll be 20 hours perhaps of PowerPoint, or you can get paid for 20 hours while you're working on all these things. So I think once you understand how to do it, there's really a lot of benefits, and it's really super easy to do. So I'm just going to spend a couple minutes talking about the basic kind of framework of the wings. And this is really, I've already kind of talked to you about it for the CFI perspective, but this is from the pilot or the student perspective and why they should participate and what benefits there are on the other side. So as you know, in order to exercise your pilot privileges, you have to have a flight review. And the guidance on that is a minimum of flight training and a minimum hour of ground training on general operating and flight rules of Part 91. Or in a glider, there's some specific requirements as well. But there's not a lot there that says specifically what you have to do. And what I see a lot of times, happens with flight instructors. You got a friend who's a flight instructor and you go fly or something like that. There's not really necessarily a plan. And even for students, maybe they have somebody that they know. Are they really receiving a comprehensive evaluation of their flying, looking for some areas of deficiency? And when you look at this area of time between the time when you get a new certificate in your flight, in your last flight review and your next flight review, you've got this area where you're proficient at particular tasks, and then perhaps an area of time where you're not as proficient and you're a little bit at risk. So we talk a lot about, we've been talking a lot about flattening the curve and items like that. And I was thinking there really is a proficiency curve, right? In between those flight reviews, there's some time when your skills get a little bit rusty, right? Well, with wings, you don't have to do these activities all at once. You can break that flight review up over a period of time so you stay up in this area instead of getting down in this area. And there's a lot of confusion. People will think a flight activity has to be an hour. It doesn't. However long it takes you to evaluate the pilot on those tasks, according to the ACS, is the time that it takes. So I've gone up on an hour flight and done a couple tasks with a pilot, or in an hour and a quarter, done 3 tasks with a pilot. If you go up into the air with a plan, you can get it done in a relatively quick period of time. So when you talk about, as flight instructors, when we're teaching currency and teaching proficiency, for currency, we all know that that's a flight review within the 24 months, and if we're taking passengers, we have to have the necessary takeoffs and landings. But what about proficiency? How do you teach your students to be proficient? In many cases, that starts after they have already completed their check ride, and they know they have to come back for a flight review. And even the ACS, under the risk management section there, talks about a failure to distinguish proficiency. How can we expect a student or pilot to distinguish proficiency? Currency it's black and white, but proficiency is not. And that's really what Wings is all about. It's an ongoing personal proficiency plan for a pilot that can be tailored to their specific situation. So the idea behind Wings from the pilot side is if they get involved into it, it really empowers the pilot to build their own flight review. And they can self-select knowledge topics and complete those on their own. And then they get together with a flight instructor quarterly and brush up on many of the check ride tasks that maybe they haven't done in a while. And so I think there's really a lot of benefit in this for pilots. You can customize Wings based on the pilot, the type of aircraft that you're flying, a particular topic of interest that you might have, any areas of perceived personal proficiency. I think today was pretty high density altitude day and a gusty crosswind at our airport. And the pilot that I was flying with as we were on approach, and he was trying to get that center line nailed, he voiced, hey, we haven't done this in a while, right? So there's some awareness that's there, and this gives you an opportunity to kind of have a plan and go out and work on that on a regular basis. And as far as proficiency checks go, so I'm very fortunate that I get to fly a wide variety of aircraft. And there was a day last week where I spent my morning teaching in gliders, and then in the evening I had to go do a maintenance flight in this aircraft. And so that's about as wide a spread as you can have there. And when I'm flying in the glider, what I need for currency in that is very, very obvious. 24 months, a flight review, and to carry passengers, I need the landing currency. But how about the solo? Your flight review can be completed in any category class aircraft that you fly. So if you're solo, I can do all my flying in a helicopter or a jet, and I can jump right in that glider and go up and fly and be completely legal again. But as I'm flying the jet, my proficiency or my currency and my proficiency are very tightly evaluated. Every 6 months, I've got to go in and do a check ride. So it's really this area that what you can do and what you should do. Wings will really help you develop a plan that's very similar to what you would do in this type of environment. So one of the weaknesses really with wings is with the pilots not understanding is that many of the pilots participate in the knowledge portion, but they don't really understand how the knowledge credits work, or they understand how to get them, but they don't understand how to use those to complete a phase. So they just collect a whole bunch of knowledge credits and go into a whole bunch of courses. And then when it comes time for a flight review, they just end up doing the flight review. I'm just going to skip ahead of this phase right here. So here's some of the terms that we talked about before: current phase, level, topic, activity, knowledge versus flight, and a credit. So I'm just going to point some of those things out and show you what those are now. So here's the FAA safety page again, and you'll see before we talked about the instructor portal. That's what we would use as an instructor. Well, now as a pilot or as a student, we'd be looking at this little widget right here, which is the wings widget. And if you look at the bottom of that, it doesn't quite show up on here, but this is the area that it's in. We have the My Wings button. So if you click on that button, what you're going to do is bring up your wings logbook. And so this will have the history of everything that you've done throughout wings. And what you'll notice is that for a phase, so this is the first definition, in order to complete a phase is a combination of 3 knowledge activities and 3 flight activities. But they're not just any knowledge activities or any flight activities. They're specifically designed to provide a comprehensive evaluation or comprehensive knowledge base of your flying. So if you'll notice, there's a knowledge topic 1, okay, and that's the first slot here. And every time you complete a seminar, a webinar, or anything like that you do, an online course, it's always going to be, in order to be a topic 1, it's always going to be something related to aeronautical decision making, including runway safety issues. And knowledge topic 2 is always going to be performance and limitation, including loss of control. And number 3 is always going to be pre-flight planning, risk management, fuel management, or a combination of elective subjects. So those elective subjects there's a pretty long list of them that you can find, but a lot of times seminars are going to give you credits for this knowledge topic 3 because it does cover such a wide area. So bounce down to the flight activities here. You'll see there's a flight topic 1, a topic 2, and a topic 3. So you're not just doing the same thing. You're going to go out and spend some time working on takeoffs and landings. You're going to go out and spend some time working on positive aircraft control, including loss of control and issues, and then basic flying skills. So the pilot's job is to go ahead and fill in all these slots. And what's going to happen is, let's say that you are a private pilot, okay, and you are not instrument rated. Sometimes wings will suggest something that's not necessarily appropriate to what you actually do in your flying. So what you'll notice is there's an opportunity over here to find alternate activities. So what you do is you go in and you click that button, and it's going to go into the database, and it's going to find everything that satisfies the flight topic 2 requirement. Okay, so let's say I don't like this one right here. If I want to see what this actually includes, I can click on there. It'll give me a full description. But I'm going to click on Find Alternate Activities, and it's going to go into the database, and it's going to give me a list of things that I can select. So if you look on the right side, they're all going to at least have basic flight topic 1. Some will give you credit for other things in addition, but they're going to at least include what you need to fill in that slot. So the idea from the pilot side is that the pilot will go through, and you can see I've completed a bunch of activities here, but I haven't completed these items here. So once I build this out, what I can do is I can take responsibility for this and print this out and give it to a flight instructor, okay? So what I'll do is I'll click this print your checklist right here, and then what happens is you get this nice plain language thing that you can take to a CFI, show them what you've done, and show them what you want to work on. So this is the first area here, the first part of the page, and I just cropped a little bit of it. This was everything that I had completed. And then we'll actually go in and list all of the different tasks that are required for these different things in plain language. So you can just give it to the CFI. The CFI can sign it off, put their certificate number. You can, if the CFI wants to put that information in to renew his certificate, he or she can. If not, they can give it to another CFI, or you can bring it to myself or another Wings Pro or somebody else from the FAASTeam, and we can go ahead and do that for you. So that's just a really brief overview of exactly how that works. There's a lot of flexibility in there. You can go in one time and complete a phase in single engine land. And if you're a glider pilot, you can go in next time and complete a phase under glider. You can go in the next time and do something under seaplane. So perhaps if you're not actively flying in these areas, like I'm going to be flying a little bit with an instructor this weekend who is a glider CFI that hasn't flown in a while. So this is an opportunity to go in there and work on some of these things and work towards a phase of wings for him. So this is just a really brief overview, but I do have a Facebook page now because I found a lot of people contacting me with questions and things like that. We would go back and forth to try to set up a time to talk. And you can go to Facebook and just put in Facebook /the wings guy, and this page will come up here. And this is really just a resource of anytime I find a nice FAA safety course that I like or something like that. It's really a safety-based website. I'm going to publish or post that on there. But if you want, you can click on this little book now button here. And what will happen is you'll get taken to a scheduler where you can pick a time and pick a date, and we'll get together and do a 30-minute personalized wings review for yourself. I can show you a little bit more about how to use it on a basic level, or if you've got some specific questions that you want to get together and go over to spend some time learning about the program a little bit more. Like Dan said, don't beat your head against the wall about this because it's not a very user-friendly website, but you know, it's what we have to work with for right now. And there is a lot of value with it. I found a lot in that, not only in my instructing, but in my personal flying. I can't remember the last time that I did a flight review, and I can't remember the last time I did a FERC, but I think I really have a better plan, and it's really made me a better instructor and a safer pilot. And that's really kind of the goal of all this. So anyway, that's the last slide that I have here. So I want to thank everybody for attending. I'm going to go ahead and exit my slideshow, but I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to, as long as I'm still showing my screen here, I'm going to go into the instructor portal. And I told you it was quick and easy and painless, and that's the way they said it was on the, that Dan said it was. So I'm going to click here to give you immediate wings credit. And I did some flying with an instructor today, or not an instructor, but a pilot, but I don't want to use his email address because I don't want everybody spamming him. So I'm going to put in, this is my alter ego here because I'm also a rep for the Boston FAASTeam. So I'm going to put that in and click search. And there I am, Dave Strassburg. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. So you know I have an account, right? I'm going to go in here. I have the activity number, Alpha 100125-07. Now, what you'll notice is as you start putting numbers in, it's going to start giving you a list, and it narrows it down the further the number gets out. So once you punch the whole thing in, you've got that right there. Again, this right down here, you don't have to put anything in there. This is just, if you don't have this number, just forget this is even here because it's a lot of work. Hit search. There's the activity. Okay, that's right. I'm going to click select. Today's date. I put it in. I did the activity. Yes. I certified that I met the standards, click give credit, and it's done. So would that take about 30, 45 seconds? So if I can do that 15 times over 24 months, I've got my flight instructor certificate renewed. And you can start working on that at any time. So I hope I made the case that this is super simple and easy. If anybody has any questions for me at all, I'm going to leave the website up here. And I don't know if Steve or John or Dan or Rob, if there's any questions that anybody has, but
yeah, this is Steve. I've kind of been answering a lot of the questions, typing them, but there were probably a couple good ones that did come in relation to this. I gotta just scroll back a little bit. Is one person had asked the question, which is a broad-based question, I get this quite often, is, you know, what do I need to do as an instructor to become a wings instructor? Is there anything more that I need to do?
You already are one. There's no such thing as a specific wings instructor. Instructors will get involved, kind of dip their toe in it first as they work with us. And, you know, my goal is to really kind of make it super easy to get in and get using and functioning. And I've learned so much as I've been involved with the program. What I like to do is I really like to establish proficiency from day one. So, you know, that day when you're sitting down with your student and you're in IACRA and you're filling out their paperwork and you're giving them their citizenship endorsement, doing all that stuff, I sign them up for a Wings account right then and there. And there's a lot of courses in here. So let's say you have a student that was, I'm going to click on activities here. Let's say you had a student that wanted to, was interested in what topics there were available for glider. So I can just go in there and just hit glider in that box and search, and it'll go in and find different flight activities or flight topics, but also some courses and things like that, knowledge courses that I can work on. So you can see there's a lot here, right? I can go in and filter that out. If I click on Wings, I can say, let me find the knowledge activities in the basic phase for glider. And I can click on that, see if there's any in there. I'm pretty sure that there's at least 2 in there that I know of. So here's one here, gliding for the airplane pilot. This is an ALC course. That's one that Stephen put together. It's a video that you watch and then some answers that you, or some questions that you answer afterwards. You can see there's also some courses in here provided by such as Sporties or some third-party courses. All your free ones are going to show up first, and all your cost-based ones are going to show up down at the bottom there. Let's say you wanted to find, you were a pilot or you were a instructor, and you wanted to find some flight activities, airplane single engine land. We'll put in a dash, and we'll just get rid of these right here, and we'll click the flight. Let's say we need we got a student that's got a flight topic 1 or 2 and 3 completed, and they need a 1. I can go in there and select Wings Basic Flight 1. Now, if I don't put this in, it's going to give me everything for every category in class. And one of the problems with the website is it tries to be all things to all people. So it's going to show you, 142 things. It's going to show you ag pilots, airplane multi-engine land, single engine land, seaplane, even Civil Air Patrol. I've heard that participation in Wings is mandatory for them, so you'll see a lot of their activities and stuff that are listed in here. But there's a lot in here, and I really don't want to dig through this and figure all that out. So if you know what your category is, you can type ASCL dash form search, and that will narrow it down for you. So now I've got the single engine land items, and I can go through and find something that's applicable to the pilot. So you see there's a sport pilot here and a recreational pilot. Here's private, ATP, commercial. ASCL, takeoffs, climbs, approaches, and go-arounds. Okay, what does this exactly mean? If I click on that, what I'll get is this big page with a whole bunch of stuff that you got to read through. And when you get down to the end, what you'll find is a whole list of tasks from the ACS. And you'll see that some are bold and some are not bold. The ones that are bold are the items that you have to do. So those are the things that are included on my little checklist sheets that I have to kind of sort that out. On this one right here, you'll see there is an option to click on this worksheet. You can click on worksheet and go through a couple links, and you can take this with you in the cockpit and go through and evaluate them on these items. So the ones that are not in bold, you don't have to do. You can do them, and a lot of times it's not really a big deal. Just kind of throw a couple things in, but you have to do the stuff that's in the bold. All right. Let's say we want to go back. I'll just show one more here quickly. Let's say we want to do glider items, right? Let's do glider dash, and this works for any level that you want to participate on. So if you're just looking to use Wings as a supplement for a flight review, you're probably just going to always participate on the basic level, and there's no need to go on and do something else. But let's say you want to get a little bit more advanced, okay? So the basic level are always going to be things that are going to be judged to private pilot standards and really foundational things that are important for the safety of pilots. The advanced phase are going to be things that are going to be judged to commercial pilot standards, a little bit more advanced. And also a lot of the flight activities are going to be very specifically accident-related causal factors. So what they do is they look at all the accidents that have happened in the area in the last 24 months, and they develop flight activities to kind of meet that need. And the master category is going to be CFI with instrument rating or ATP. So again, the standards are going to be a little bit higher that you have to do, and the flexibility is also there to do other things. So let's say we want to do advanced and glider category. If you put just put G dash, that's kind of the shortcut, and we'll click on, flight 1 and flight 2 and see what it comes up with. So it'll go into the database and sort for these topics. So if you remember when I showed before where it said find alternate activities, when you do that, you're going to the same place, but what it's doing is it's really taking a lot of things out of there to make it easy for you to find. So if I look through here, I can see, okay, what would I want to work on here? Okay, so airwork, steep turn, stall recognition, and this is appropriate for my commercial category. I can click on that. And these are my favorite types of wings activities here, because this right here is really easy to read. It's plain and simple. And this is kind of what I have on my little cheat sheet there. So min-sync airspeed, speed to fly, ridge and slope soaring. Now, according to PTS, you can do a discussion of that if you don't have the ability to do that where you're flying. Steep turns, flight at minimum controllable airspeed, stall recognition and recovery. So you can just go through and do those items. So you don't have to be, there's nothing special about being a wings instructor. You just have to kind of get involved and get started with it, and carry those little cheat sheets along with you, and you'll find out that it's really a lot easier than it seems to go through and do this.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
Question, Dave, yeah, is and I think you may have hit upon it, and you and I know each other and fly together occasionally. Can you do it in multiple types of aircraft? Like, could we do flight topic 1 in a glider, flight topic 2 in a tailwheel, and flight topic 3 in a multi-engine airplane?
Yes, I found no prohibitions on that in any of the literature on wings that's published anywhere. And I think that's actually kind of a really good idea to, get into it and, work on a few, because every aircraft has different characteristics, but every aircraft can teach you a little bit more about flying. Get in that tailwheel aircraft and remember how to use those rudders, or that, that glider. Get in that multi-engine aircraft and get used to managing more complicated, performance and scenarios and power plant issues and things like that. So I definitely recommend that. I think that's a great idea to get in there and do that.
And I'm actually going to answer a question or elaborate on a question for the person more so, because I did just find the answer with this. But someone had asked about how long you have to complete a FERC. Like if you're doing it online or, all of this, they can see that, you can do the wings program over that 2-year period or since your last renewal. And I just looked it up in the advisory circular on the flight instructor refresher clinics, although this is not what we're focused towards, it is possible, although it is not encouraged, that FERCs can spread over the 24-month renewal period for people. So I'm just putting that out there because it's easier for me to say the answer than to go back and find who it was and type it.
Excellent. Always learning. And if you've ever kind of wondered, I'll show another quick little thing there here. It's kind of interested. If you ever wondered what happened to all these knowledge seminars and activities, you go to when I'm doing a flight with somebody, I try to be proactive about it. I say, great, we're going to work on some things today, and I'm going to give you wings credit for this. And they go, great, what's wings credit? Well, then that's my opportunity to kind of open the door. Everybody's happy to get that, right? But these activities, if you click on activities here, where you see that search area, if you scroll down below the search area, what you'll see is a listing of your entire history of every time that you've been granted a wings credit for various items. And you can go all the way through the history. So I went back to the 3rd page here because I remember going down to the CFI DPE forums when Jim Adams was the program manager, and Doug Stewart was doing a talk. And just a minute here, it's got to go way back in the time machine to find that. There it is right there, 10/15/2007. So, it's all the way back there to the beginning to when this website first started and information about that. So you can kind of go in and see. Now, I can't use these. If I completed one of these, they do have an expiration date. If you complete a flight activity or a knowledge activity, it's only good for 12 months. And it has to be used to complete a phase within 12 months or it expires. So if we go back to let's go back to My Wings here, click on this. What you'll find on the bottom of this is your entire credit history for the last 12 months. And you can see the items that are on the left here are the things that are going to kind of expire soon. So if I want to use them, I better go and work on those. So you can see this one right here. I have a FAA Wings for CFIs that's going to expire. That's a knowledge topic 3. And then I have an advanced topic 2. So I would have to go in and sort of fill the other blanks in if I wanted to use those credits. Okay. Here you can see this was a big webinar month for me. Here I did a bunch of flight activities and different items. Actually, that's actually when I got my type rating. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. If you click on your Wings logbook here, you can see the green ones are all the things that I've done in the past. I've completed 6 basic phases, 3 advanced, and 3 master. And so if I want to see what it was that I did, I can click on that. And I'll actually get the list right here. So this was my Part 135 check and my initial type rating and a Wings course that I did. And let's say that I wanted to prove that I had completed this and carried this with me so I would have proof. If I clicked on this right here, it gives me a nice certificate, just not as nice as the one that Dan gave me. But again, I have a little certificate that I can hang on the wall if I want, and a little flight review wallet card that says that I have completed a phase of Wings and that I've satisfied the requirements of a flight review. So if anybody ever asked me, I could pull that out and hand it and show them that I had done that. And also, if I go back to there, the other thing is if you want to see all these unapplied credits that show up down here for any particular level of Wings that you might be working on, you can click on and see what they all are. So I got 2.5 unapplied credits for the Knowledge Topic 1 category. And I've got 4.5 for the Knowledge Topic 2, and I've got the number 3 is a really catch-all category. So there's a lot of different stuff on here that I've got. And you know, I do these courses not necessarily to complete a phase, but I just feel like it makes me a better pilot. So you can kind of, you know, dig in there on your own and find out, you know, exactly what's in there. These are all the ones that are not expired. Once they expire, they're going to drop out. And so you have a year to use them. But anyway, that's kind of how that works. Most of the stuff that I went over too, if you click on this right here, this will open up and this will talk all about the different levels and the basic types of things that are included. Here's those other subjects that we talked about, you know, aerial application, special use airspace, runway incursion, which is a very important thing, wire strike avoidance. So these are kind of the flexibility or elective topics that will show up in there as well.
Awesome. Hey, Dave, I got 3 quick points to make and build upon this. And again, I know you and I talk a lot. We fly together some, or in relation to it. You showed the little flight review card. I actually cut that out and I keep it with my pilot license in my wallet in case anybody ever shows up and ramp checks me and says, "Hi, I'm from the FAA and I'm here to help you." You know, I can say, "Me too."
Nice.
So that's one. 2, Evemco Insurance Company is a big sponsor of the Wings program. And if you have insurance through them, they give you a 10% discount for participation in the Wings program. You know, if you achieve a level of Wings. Although it's not advertised, I also have found from a competitive perspective, most insurance companies will match that also. Since Evemco does it, they will do it also. So you may want to talk to your insurance company. If you own your own aircraft, that's one of the things. I get 2 10% discounts on my insurance, and that's one of them is for the Wings. And the third item I want to mention quick is if you do participate in the Wings program regularly and you do it like once a year, such as I do, when things like we recently happened with this COVID-19 pop-up, you probably don't have to really start worrying about the flight review or anything like that. My plans have changed. I normally do a certain schedule of things for flight activities and usually I kind of like renew my Wings level every year in May. Didn't happen, but my flight review is valid until May of next year because I use the Wings program. So, you know, I don't have to worry about all of this.
And another benefit too, if you were to ask somebody right now, when's your next flight review due? Well, you dig out your logbook. It's certainly a little bit easier now with ForeFlight. You can kind of look if you're using an electronic logbook. But if you log into Wings, it shows you right here, your flight review expires on this date. So there's no question when that actually happens. And I think participating and using this as opposed to a flight review is really good. You know, if you should ever find yourself in a situation where you violate an airspace or have an issue or something like that, you know, not to say that this will, you know, get you out of a bad situation, but it really serves as a character witness for your willingness to participate in an ongoing proficiency plan. And I think it really says, I have to think that it kind of says to the FAA that this is somebody that maybe just had a bad day. And I think that would probably be something that would be looked at in any type of situation where something was being further investigated.
I can answer that at least for the Boston FSDO. Yes. Yes. Everybody that has an accident or incident, we do take a look to see how much they have participated in the Wings program. And we do specifically note that. It is interesting, I will readily admit, and John and Dan can probably attest too, it's usually the people that are involved in an airspace incident, pilot deviation incident, or even accident, if they are involved in Wings, they usually have just done a couple like seminars or webinars, and that's about it. The people that are actively involved in doing the flight and the knowledge portion, it's exceptionally rare to actually see those people dealing with that sort of thing. And it does make a difference.
And Stephen, I'll just add, this is Dan, I'll just add on that in our office, when the inspectors are doing an investigation, they always come by my cube and say, you know, hey, Dan, can you tell me, is this person, are they involved in Wings? They want to know that. That goes on the report, and it definitely gets factored in. As Dave said, it's not a get out of jail free card, but it definitely carries some weight. And then the other thing, I just want to jump in. I just want to stress to everybody, you're not alone on this. Don't try to struggle through this by yourself and grit your teeth and try to white knuckle your way through this. Pick up the phone, call one of us. We've got these wonderful Wings pros. I'm available if you feel more comfortable talking to a Wing pro. You know, don't struggle through the website, because there's a lot of good stuff here, and we don't want to lose folks just because, you know, they got halfway through it and was like, where do I click? And, you know, we can walk you through it. So don't struggle. It's not that hard though. It's so easy. Even an FAA guy can do it. I did it. I went through the phase. Thanks to Dave. All thanks to Dave. He got me through my phase. And thank you, Dave. Thank you for maintaining your good humor.